Well, here we are. The second most popular modern Doctor Who era. Headed by Matt Smith, who broke the record for youngest actor to play the Doctor, once held by Peter Davison. Now, it's tall, lanky, awkward, very fast-paced Matt Smith, who once again looks like an eccentric student/teacher. The story begins with him trying his very best not to hurt anyone when he crashes the TARDIS, which is still on fire. And what's worse, his sonic screwdriver is starting to malfunction. Eventually, he crash lands into a shed belonging to a young girl named Amelia Pond, who at this moment is praying to Santa, who is technically a saint, so we'll allow it, for someone to help her with a strange crack in her wall. That's an odd thing to ask Santa about. But apparently for her, it's not something that should be there. So when the Doctor crashes into Amelia's shed, she goes out to investigate on her own, even though a parental figure should really be nearby. I guess she's a latchkey kid or something. And she quickly finds out that the Doctor is a little erratic, very uncoordinated, and very disoriented. He keeps asking for various types of foods and then rejecting said foods, even though they're pretty good foods. An apple, bacon, beans, breaded butter. And then he settles on fish sticks, although they call them fish fingers, and custard, which to me sounds like a really gross combination. Eventually, the subject gets around to the crack in Amy's wall, or in Amelia's wall, excuse me. And the Doctor surmises that, yeah, it's not a normal crack. It's a crack in reality, where 2 points are brushing up against one another. Possibly similar to that wormhole that led to the desert planet that the Doctor investigated that one time. Eventually, the two hear a voice coming from the wall. And the voice says, "Prisoner Zero has escaped." And when the Doctor manages to temporarily open the crack, he sees a giant eyeball. Good luck sleeping in here, Amelia. Then the TARDIS starts having a fit, so the Doctor has to temporarily leave Amelia alone and do a 5-minute hop into the future to fix whatever is wrong. 5 minutes, that's all. He needs 5 minutes. And Amelia packs a bag and waits. Apparently she wants to be a companion. But unfortunately for her, the 5 minutes ended up being 12 years. And when the Doctor comes back and finds the house, and finds a room that for some reason nobody noticed, he gets clocked on the head by a policewoman who is now living in the house. And he finds out later that this policewoman, who is actually not a policewoman, she's a dress-up kissogram lady, that she is in fact Amelia, who's changed her name to Amy because she didn't care for how fairy tale her name was. And she's never forgiven the Doctor for making her wait 12 years. And having her endure therapists who say the Doctor isn't real. And having her get in trouble for fighting said therapists. Yeah, she's a feisty Scottish girl. And everybody loves her. So, then, the Doctor begins his investigation properly by informing Amy that there's a room in her house that no one's noticed. None of her parental figures, who are still absent, noticed that there was a room in her house. And unfortunately, Amy gets too curious and investigates and sees Prisoner Zero, this transparent eel thing that looks like it belongs at the bottom of the ocean, along with the anglerfish. Also, it slobbered on the doctor's screwdriver, causing it to malfunction even worse. And then the entity represented by the eyeball, known as the Atroxy, begin an announcement that Prisoner Zero has escaped and is hiding in the human residence, and said residence will be incinerated unless Prisoner Zero turns itself in. So, the doctor quickly gets Amy out of the house before it's incinerated. And then the Atroxy throw a bubble around the house, not the house, but the whole planet, with the intent to incinerate the human residence, the Earth itself. And so the doctor has to think quick to signal the Atroxy somehow, because Prisoner Zero has taken the disguise of an old man and his dog. And not only that, Prisoner Zero has access to several comatose patients at the local hospital, puzzled over by one Rory Williams, a male nurse, who keeps hearing the comatose patients talk in their sleep, asking for the doctor. Not the one on call, but the doctor. Unfortunately, the doctor on call is a bit thick, so we'll get to that in a moment. The doctor figures he can signal the Atraxia with a sonic screwdriver, only it goes poof right when the doctor needs it. And the TARDIS, well, after the doctor got it stabilized, it locks itself down so it can rebuild itself. So long, classic two era design. Looking forward to the new one. Luckily, the doctor, thinking on his feet, realizes that Rory, who's taking a walk after being yelled at by his superior, the doctor lady, he's the only one not taking pictures of the sun as it's being covered by the bubble around the Earth. And so the doctor, after a quick introduction, finds out that Rory has taken pictures of various people around town who should be in their coma beds, and yet they're around town. Yet Prisoner Zero has been busy. And what's worse, it then goes to the hospital and proceeds to kill the lady doctor and her staff, leaving it free to hide in the hospital. So, realizing that he's going to need some help on this one, he borrows the computer of another friend of Amy's, who knew about the doctor, because she told everyone she could about the raggedy doctor she met as a child. And now everyone realizes, oh, she was telling the truth. She wasn't crazy. And the doctor's like, oh boy, I do not need this notoriety. So he uses the friend's laptop to contact some smart people, and yet none are with the unit, and gives them a few bits of Time Lord knowledge to whet their appetites and get them to trust him. And he whips up a virus which, at the right time, will cause all the clocks on Earth to count down to 0, or reset to 0. And so, he has Amy and Rory accompany him to the hospital where Prisoner Zero is being is hiding. And after a bit of cat and mouse, it corners the trio and mentions something called a Pandorica and saying the silence will fall. No one knows what that means, so the doctor ignores it. And then, just when you think the planet is going to be toasted and the doctor and Amy and Rory are going to be eaten or something, the clocks reset to 0. The Atroxy out in orbit trace the source of the virus, which is in the doctor's hand, and they realize that Prisoner Zero is in the hospital, but they can't pinpoint it. And Prisoner Zero decides to play dirty, forcing Amy into a coma and taking the form of young Amy and the doctor as a disguise. Because if it's going, it's taking the whole dang planet with him. But the doctor manages to outsmart it. He speaks to Amy while she's sleeping and convinces her to think of the thing she saw in that room on the day she met the doctor a second time, which causes Prisoner Zero to become a perfect impersonation of itself. Much like Atrick when the Master had hold of him. And so, with Prisoner Zero's cover blown, it gets taken away to be executed. But not before confirming that something called the Silence will fall. But it's defeated, and the day is saved with 2 minutes to spare. No TARDIS, no screwdriver. The Doctor is the man. And he's never calling himself that again. So, with all that sorted out, he gets a signal from the TARDIS that it's ready. So he runs back to Amy's house with Amy and Rory in hot pursuit, and takes off for a quick jump to the moon to get things going. And unfortunately, it takes him 2 years to get back. He appears to Amy on, as it's later revealed, the night of her wedding, or the night before her wedding, and asks the Doctor if she wants to see some new planets and new timelines. And she's like, okay, even though she's about to get married. We finally get to see the quote-unquote sexy interior of the new TARDIS. It's very chaotic. The console is like a mishmash of junk. It looks like how you would imagine an old world clock would be if there were little people inside running it. Kind of like the jukebox from Shining Time Station. Remember that old show? And so, the Doctor and Amy go on their first proper adventure. And they land on a spaceship, which is also a city, which is also a combination of London and Ireland, Scotland having gone off on its own. It seems solar flare activity has caused people to evacuate the planet again, and we find that something sinister is stirring aboard this Spaceship London, or Spaceship Britain, I should say. People keep getting disappeared. And the culprits? These booths with very creepy, smiling, robotic faces inside them. And if you do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, or try to use an elevator to get home when you've been banned from the elevators, the robots in the booths get very, very mean looking and drop the floor out from beneath you. Down below. And the doctor, in his own mad way, realizes something. That despite Britain becoming a spaceship, there's no engine vibration. When you put a glass of water on the floor, it doesn't vibrate. Not the least bit. Which is also a conundrum that the current Queen, Elizabeth X, is puzzling out. Eventually it's revealed that the whole of Britain, without Scotland of course, is currently sitting on the back of a giant space whale. Apparently when the Earth started to burn thanks to the solar flares, the space whale heard Britain's children crying and just showed up out of the blue. So they captured it, yoked it, built a ship around it, and got the duck out of Fudge. Unfortunately, they're torturing the poor beast. They're sending it shocks to keep it under control, and feeding it anyone who steps out of line, or anyone who finds out the secret beneath the spaceship. In fact, Amy found out the secret and willingly erased her memory of the event, and even sent herself a message to get the doctor away from this ship, because when the doctor finds out the truth about the city of London, along with the Queen, who's a lot older than she looks and has kept the secret far longer than anyone else, he's forced to make a terrible decision. Number one, release the space whale and let the spaceship disintegrate as the whale runs for freedom. Two, let it continue to be tortured. Or three, lobotomize it so it will continue to function as a spaceship but essentially be killed. But while the doctor is agonizing over this decision, and the Queen is agonizing over the fact that she herself ordered her minions, these clockwork cyborgs, to help her keep the secret, Amy realizes something. The space whale is the last of its kind. When it showed up, it didn't show up as a chance. It showed up because it could hear some of Earth's children crying. Turns out the humans didn't need to torture it. The space whale is very much like the doctor. The space whale doesn't hurt kids. It cares about them. Because earlier the doctor, having noticed a little girl crying and no one helping her, he's compelled to see if he can help her. last of its kind, very old, a weak spot for kids. And so she uses the Queen's hand, not that way. She grabs the Queen's hand and forces her to hit a special button, which turns off the torture machine, which allows the space whale to increase speed and continue on its journey protecting the last Londoners. Amy realized the space whale was there on purpose to help. And now that it's not being tortured, it's able to show just how kind it is. And the doctor, well, he's a little upset that he didn't realize it at first. But that's only because he's been somewhat blinded to some of the nightmares he's had to endure. So it's good that he's got a human with him now. It's good that he's got someone to stop him again. Unfortunately, when the doctor and Amy leave, they don't notice there is a crack in the hull of the ship, looking suspiciously like the crack in Amy's wall. But no time to worry about that, because the doctor gets a call from none other than Winston Churchill, and apparently he's being menaced by Daleks. And so, the doctor and Amy head to London during World War II, the Blitz. And this is a, I believe, threefold, definitely twofold convergence, because I'm guessing the night before, the Ninth Doctor, Rose, and Captain Jack ensure that just this once everybody lives. And somewhere down there, Dr. Lazarus, as a child, is cowering for his life. Oh yes. It seems World War II London is getting rather crowded. But no time to marvel at that. It seems the Luftwaffe is trying to bomb London into oblivion. And something with a very familiar sounding firearm manages to take out the Luftwaffe like that. It seems Churchill has a very intelligent scientist on his hand, Professor Bracewell, who has developed a new type of robot which will win England the war. Unfortunately, it looks, acts, and sounds like a Dalek, although it's called an Ironside. And the Doctor implores Churchill and Bracewell and everyone there to destroy the Ironsides, because they're not Earth-made robots. They're aliens who are worse than the Nazis. They make the Nazis look like Hindu pacifists. Or Shaolin pacifists. But everyone is adamant that these robots will win the war for the Allies. And you gotta wonder, if these are Daleks, then why didn't they try to form an alliance with Hitler? Because honestly, of all the humans throughout Earth's history, the Nazis are the most Dalek-like. I guess the Daleks were worried that in their weakened state, Hitler might try to take control of them. And the last thing we need is a more Dalek-like human taking over the Daleks. Anyway, it all comes to a head when the Doctor starts beating on a Dalek with a wrench and confirming that his word as the Doctor says that they are the Daleks. And that's exactly what they were waiting for. Seems they have a device with pure Dalek DNA. None of that corrupted Davros stuff, but rather classic Dalek DNA. It's inside a device called a progenitor, and it's there to ensure that the Daleks never die. They take it to their crippled but still functioning spaceship hiding behind the moon and use it to breed a new Dalek paradigm. And here they are. The White Supreme, the Red Drone, the Blue Strategist, the Orange Scientist, and the Yellow Eternal. Taller than modern classic Daleks, and more colorful, in keeping with the Peter Cushing movies, the Daleks have color-coordinated ranks. And their casings are a little different too. They have humps on their backs, which are in fact places for tools to be stored, though we never see it on camera. Sadly, these Daleks weren't appreciated at the outset by the audience, even though they are quite imposing. Their eye stalks look more organic, as if you could actually see the Khalid mutant through that protuberance. And the people didn't appreciate how bright and colorful the Daleks are, labeling them Candy Daleks or Power Ranger Daleks. Perhaps if their casings were darker, more metallic, then people could have appreciated them more. They do now, to a degree, but unfortunately, the new Dalek paradigm was short-lived. Anyway, these new Daleks take out the impure Ironside Daleks and begin preparations for rebuilding their race. First order of business, exterminate the Doctor. Second order of business, head back to the future to start rebuilding. Luckily, the Doctor is able to bluff and intimidate his way into stopping the Daleks from leaving just yet. And then the Daleks pull out a trump card. While they're currently at a stalemate, the Daleks decide to activate all the lights in London, because it's nighttime right now. And with those lights, the Luftwaffe have clear targets. So the Doctor has to make a choice. Let the Daleks go, or let the Luftwaffe take out the humans. Luckily, the Doctor has some trump cards of his own. Some of that technology that Bracewell was revealed to be an android creation of the Daleks, yet not truly loyal to them. He's able to cobble together a small squadron of classic World War II British fighter planes. They can operate just outside the atmosphere, and they have energy weapons instead of bullets. And so, with a little help from the Doctor, they take out the dish transmitting the signal to the lights, and London goes dark. The Daleks have failed. So they decide to burn it all down. It seems they've sequestered a bomb inside Bracewell, who, as I said, turned it out to be an android. And the Doctor has to retreat and let the Daleks go in order to stop Bracewell from blowing up. Now, personally, I would have just grabbed him, thrown him in the TARDIS, gone into deep orbit, and just thrown him out the airlock. But the Doctor and Amy managed to reach that piece of Bracewell that the Daleks made too well, his human part. And through his human will, which the Daleks hadn't counted on, he's able to stop the bomb from blowing up. and restore his humanity. And so the Daleks retreat with their tails between their legs. Now, the Doctor considers it a failure because he didn't stop the Daleks, at least not fully. But he did save the Earth, again. And so, everyone tells him to consider it a win, and he can always get the Daleks next time. So, after a bit of clever back and forth between he and Churchill about the technology that Bracewell, who was allowed to disappear, had, the Doctor assures him that with his help, with Churchill's help, the war will be won. And so Amy and the Doctor head out once again, not noticing there's a crack in the wall behind the TARDIS. So many cracks. It's almost as if reality itself is being broken apart. So now, the Doctor gets a message from River Song, who sends him said message through a 12,000-year-old black box from a spaceship, the Byzantium, where the River is currently running, ultimately getting rescued by the Doctor before said Byzantium crashes on a planet that's been colonized by humans. It crashed into an ancient mausoleum / labyrinth that once belonged to a species that died out 4 centuries ago. 2-headed people. That would have been a sight to behold. And so, the Doctor, Amy, River, and a troop of military clerics, led by a bishop, go looking for what was aboard the Byzantium. A weeping angel. Yes, the angels have returned. And this one is rather dangerous. It apparently sabotaged the spaceship, causing it to crash right where it wanted to, so it could get lost in the catacombs and rebuild itself. It seems they managed to record some footage of the angel, and while Amy checks it out, the angel starts to move every time the video resets. And then it's revealed through the diary of a madman, who surprisingly is not the Doctor. Or maybe he is, who knows? Who knows? Turns out, it's a bad idea to capture an image of a weeping angel because the image becomes the angel, which lends credence to the idea that Sally Sparrow accidentally caused the 10th Doctor and Martha Jones to be sent back in time by an angel because she had a picture of one. Also, it's dangerous to look an angel in the eye because it can project itself into a human mind through the eyes. And that's what happens to Amy after she manages to stop it by pausing the video right when it starts to cut out. And she starts counting down without realizing it. She has to the slow count of 10 before the angel bursts out of her head or turns her into an angel. Who knows what's going to happen. Luckily, the Doctor and River realize that if she closes her eyes, she'll pause the angel. Also, when it tries to trick her into not letting go of a tree branch, tricking her into thinking her hand is stone, the Doctor bites her. And I think Matt Smith actually bit Karen Gillan. Anyway, the one chance is to get aboard the Byzantium, because they quickly realize that the single-headed statues that are in the catacombs, they are half-starved weeping angels. And the soldier clerics start dropping like flies. And the angels use their voices in the communicators to taunt the Doctor, saying that it was a trap the whole time. But if there's something you never want to do, it's put the Doctor in a trap, because he quickly sends himself, Amy, River, and the remaining clerics up into the Byzantium in order to escape the angels. And eventually they manage to locate the ship's oxygen farm, which is basically a synthetic forest. But the angels are in hot pursuit. And also, there's this wave of energy that's slowly consuming the forest. And when some of the clerics go inspecting it, they vanish. And the clerics that stayed behind with Amy, who's incapacitated because she's effectively blind, they don't remember their brethren. Eventually, it's down to just Amy, who has to pretend she can see in order to avoid getting touched by the angels. Shut up. Who've taken to snapping necks rather than displacing the person in time. They're currently distracted by the energy that's pouring from this spot that Amy notices when she quickly opens her eyes for a split second. Is very similar to the crack in her bedroom. Apparently that crack is still troubling her. It's like it's following her, and it's getting stronger. It's absorbing everything and everyone. And when you're absorbed, you cease to be, as if you never were. After the bishop dies, sadly, it's up to River and the Doctor to figure out how to stop the angels and save Amy, because when Amy slips up and trips, the angels realize she can't see, so they can move as they please. Thankfully, River teleports her to safety, and the Doctor has a back and forth between one of the angels who took Cleric Bob's voice to really make the Doctor cheesed off. And the Doctor points something out. Number one, if all the angels were to sacrifice themselves to that crack in reality, it would temporarily be closed. And number two, the angels have been draining power from the spaceship to rebuild themselves, a whole army of them. And that includes the gravity systems. And number three, the angels were basically climbing up a wall with the crack at the bottom. So when the ship fails, the angels all pour into the crack, and it's sealed. And this saves Amy because she no longer has an angel in her head. It was pulled out along with the others. And so the day is saved at a cost. And it's revealed that River is a criminal. She was in a place called Stormgate, I believe it was called, for killing a man, a hero, a very well-loved, well-known hero. And she's also revealed to be the Doctor's wife. Well, Amy puzzles it out, the way River talks to the Doctor, so casually. And there was that fact that the 10th Doctor mentioned that only one person could truly know the Doctor's real name. So, score one for Amy. So, after River gets hauled off in handcuffs to hopefully get pardoned, or maybe to serve out more time, something akin to the Suicide Squad, Amy asks to be taken home, but only to show the Doctor something: her wedding dress. She reveals that she went with the Doctor because she's running from her wedding, and she's realized who she really wants. And so she starts practically mauling the Doctor in a very inappropriate way. I mean, if most of us were being mauled by Karen Gillan, I think we'd all say go ahead, but the Doctor, he's a little different. He's not quite as interested in snogging as he used to be. So he realizes that having made Amy fall in love with him, he's got to make it right. But that'll have to wait for next time. Until then, this is Mr. J signing out and reminding you, don't blink. Don't look away. Blink and you're dead. And also, don't let a starving weeping angel anywhere near you, especially if there's another power source nearby.